What is up? Yay!
Yay! That's not how we start. We start with yay. We don't start with what is up.
What is up? It's not quite right.
I think we're still a little behind on our sleep.
Yeah.
A little
Based
bit.
off the last hour in our house.
The fact that I
100%.
fell asleep.
Yeah, and I did as well. We were literally in the middle of working, and I think we both woke up at the same time and went, we need to do the show. What is up, everyone? Happy Monday. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 257. This is an episode long time coming because we planned and executed our very first trail race this last weekend. Play the fanfare music. There is none. The high five is it. We're going to talk all about it on tonight's episode. We'll field questions from the live chat room and on how this event came about, the origins of it, how it was executed on the day itself. But we have so many stories and things that we wanted to talk about that maybe have not been shared here on the channel. And we thought this would be a perfect opportunity to do that while our minds are still foggy. So it's like the best time to really dig into it. So on tonight's episode, we're going to talk all about what it was like to create Tiger Claw and what happened this weekend on Tiger Mountain. We're very excited to talk about it on tonight's episode. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 257, begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! First.
Hey, that was one of the best.
One of the better yays. Cheers.
Cheers.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 257. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us. On tonight's episode, I'm Ethan, your host.
And I'm Kim.
Also,
your host.
No guest tonight. We don't have anyone Skyping in from across the globe or from their mountain cabin in the depths of the backcountry. We wanted to tell some stories from this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Something big happened.
What happened?
I got 14 hours of sleep.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
And that's the end of the show.
And that's pretty much it. We put on our very first trail running event called Tiger Claw. This is something that has been in the planning stages for a couple of years. We've talked a lot about it in various capacities over the years on this show and on this channel. And it has really escalated in the last few months towards execution. This last weekend was the event itself. And we have a lot to talk about in regards to it and the success and the happiness and the joy and the stories that came out of this weekend's event. It was beyond expectations. We have so many people to thank and some stories to tell. Before we really dig into the Tiger Claw awesomeness, of course, we have some individuals that we like to thank at the top of every Ginger Runner Live. We are not able to do this show without the support of our Patreon crew. Those who support us month after month at all levels. They allow us to do these live shows, our reviews, our movies, everything here in this tiny corner of our little rental in Seattle. It is because of them that we're able to do this full time. So big shout out to our Patreon crew. 3 individuals in particular at that top tier. Chris Lee in Hong Kong and his organization Trailblazer does a great job of showcasing the trails in Hong Kong. And if you ever find yourself in the area or want to race over there, he is a great resource and a fantastic human. Rick Bjarnason and his team at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They redid the gingerrunner.com website. Rick actually raced Tiger Claw this last weekend.
He did very, very well.
Didn't even break a sweat. Crosses the finish line. Is like, hey, that was really fun. Okay, cool. I got to drive back home to Canada. Have a great time. I was just like, where's the sweat? Where's the tears? Like
he looked super fresh.
Looked super fresh. It was pretty cool to see. So big shout out to Rick and his team for helping us over the years and being such a great supporter of everything that we do. And finally, Brian Sands, who also was at Tiger Claw this weekend. He and his wife, Lori, made the trek all the way out to Seattle, volunteered for the entire day, Friday and Saturday, because we had our pre-race party on Friday. And then on Saturday, he and his wife were out there helping with the timing system, which we'll get to in a little bit. But they sacrificed their entire day to help us and help the runners out there. And it was amazing. So big shout out to Brian Sands. I am so excited to get into this because this has been such a long time coming, the event, and also being able to talk about the event in a lot of detail. If you are a Patreon supporter, we have talked a lot about some of the behind the scenes stuff over the last few months and opened up more about what it's like to actually race direct and the struggles that we were overcoming in real time. Now we get to talk about it a bit more openly, which is pretty neat. So I never imagined what it would be like to be a race director. I've raced so many races in my life that you get to the finish line, you hug the race director, you thank them for the experience, and you kind of go about the rest of your day. You go home, you enjoy your trip. This was the first time that both Kim and I got to experience what it was like on the other side of the arch, waiting for the finishers to come in, and all the excitement, the stress, the anxiety, the joy, and the happiness, all the emotions, and what it's like to put on an event. So I think we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. I apologize in advance if our brains are foggy. There has not been a lot of sleep over the last 2 weeks. I'd say every night there was this is probably every race director's experience, especially with a first year event, is just the lack of sleep, the stress, the handling of work and emails well into the late night, because that's usually when you have those free time, those free moments to like sit at your email and just answer the hundreds of emails that you've received over the course of the day while you're out running errands and doing the work. So very little sleep was had. Very, very few minutes, if not hours, of good sleep was had, even when you were asleep. The last week specifically was just awful. So we finally got
but
2
like
nights of
awful
sleep.
in the best
Oh,
way.
in the best way. But we finally got a good night's rest Saturday night, and then a really good night's rest last night.
Yes.
I woke up a couple times, but fell right back asleep. So we're gonna talk all a bit about
it.
What's going on in the chat room first?
I am just catching up in the chat room. I was doing some other things. I was multitasking.
You were multitasking. I saw what you were doing, and that's brilliant because I forgot to do it.
I'm brilliant. What's really cool about scrolling through the chat room right now is that we actually got to hug, say hello, watch these people race, have them volunteer. Like, I'm just looking through this list right now, and I see Josh Powell, A2B2, Stephanie Tatum, Miranda Jacobson, Ingen, who else did I say? Marie Claude, like Brian Sands. There's Renee Feint, Liz McHutcheon. Like, there's so many people. All those people we actually got to see in person this weekend, plus many more. This is just what's up on my screen right now, but this is like really cool and very, very special to us, and part of the reason why we wanted to make an in-person event as opposed to our global runs that are just kind of do your own thing wherever you are.
Right.
But this is giving me a whole new outlook on this chat room today, which is really cool.
It's pretty neat. Before we start diving in, of course, someone in the chat room was like FKT, and I don't know what they're referencing, but I'm assuming maybe the fastest 50-mile time. I don't know. So shout out to Jim Walmsley just at the top of the show, because I feel like if we didn't mention that, people would be really upset.
Yes.
On Saturday during Tiger Claw, there was a huge marketing smorgasbord of Hoka 11, Hoka Ona One races going on. They created this huge hoopla around the 100K record, world record, 50-mile world record, 10 by 10K record. Lots of stuff going on. We are still barely catching up with it, but I saw that Walmsley just did the unthinkable, the undoable, and breaking that world record at the 50-mile distance, which was, I mean, come on, who can do that? Who can fathom that? It's insane. So shout out to Jim, who's been on this show before. And the whole time, as I was reading kind of the catch up with that, I was like, what the hell would this guy do on the Tiger Claw course? Like, what would he do? Anyways, and then an additional shout out to 2 individuals who we've had on the show before, but we've mentioned on the show before, were our crew members of the week before, and they were a huge factor in the success of Tiger Claw. Darren and Austin Burris, who are good friends of ours and GR crew members as well. They are the other 2 individuals that just helped this race go flawlessly. We'll talk a lot about their contributions over the course of tonight's episode, like going into the specifics of organization and what it takes to put on an event for a sold out 200-person field, and nearly 100 volunteers all participating in a first year event. And that's, I want to emphasize that we had no idea how to do what we were doing going into it, but because of the help of fellow race directors, people who have experience in race directing, and these two individuals, Darren and Austin. We were able to make this thing happen. So
we have Austin in the chat room right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Hi,
That's fantastic. Hi, Austin. And for those of you who raced or really fascinated by this, we have some of the coolest data collected from our event because of our unique timing system, which we'll talk about in tonight's show as well. Because of our unique timing system, we have cool, unique data. Austin is a spreadsheet master, which I'm sure we'll say that 1,000 times tonight. But she has worked some of her magic, and she's basically putting together a really cool spreadsheet visualization that we can use to sort of showcase how some of this data will help you visualize how things played out at Tiger Claw. I have a couple stats that I pulled aside that we'll talk about tonight. It's just really interesting sort of stats and data analysis. So I'm always really fascinated by that. Austin is also fantastic at it, so we're going to be working on that and getting that on the website soon. So if you're interested in that stuff, we'll have a much better breakdown in the coming days as we start to dig through all of the photos, videos, and data collected from Tiger Claw.
And we have a few people in the chat room shouting out Darren, saying that he was an awesome upper aid station lead. Many of you would have saw Darren up top there. And also Stephen Bailey says, thank you, Darren, for carrying me down the mountain.
Yeah, Darren had a multifaceted job up at the top of the mountain. We'll break down sort of the unique layout of our race, the ideas behind the race, those who helped specific areas really happen. We'll do our best to recognize as many people as possible that help make this thing happen. But I want to start with the origin story. So Superman landed on Earth in a asteroid. God, wow, that didn't take long. And I think I was telling that completely wrong too. There's gonna be DC.
That's why I'm crying and sleeping.
She's not telling me the Superman story right. We're
off to a great start.
When I started Ginger Runner, one, it was a way for me to document my runs in an attempt. It was two parts. One, I was doing reviews of gear in a relatable, educational, and entertaining way. That was my goal, was to make gear less intimidating and to sort of break that barrier between a person and their gear and their lack of knowledge in what would work for them. So that was the original intention with Ginger Runner, was to make everything approachable. You know, picking out your running shoes, what works for me, and giving you my honest opinions without any bias. The other intention was to document my own races in hopes that I could inspire myself down the line. So, oh, hey, you ran a marathon. Maybe you can do that again. Like being able to document and show my future self what I was able to do. Things I could show my grandchildren and stuff like that over the years. And look what your grandfather did. You know, I ran 100 miles and stuff. So the original intention was kind of two-parted. Over the years, as you viewers and people started to follow along and really enjoy what we were doing, I realized there's a community here. There's a community of something I hadn't really found on YouTube yet, because I had been doing YouTube for a number of years at that point, but Ginger Runner was more of a side project, and the community was adults that enjoyed the content and were interacting with each other, and it was all like really kind, wonderful, supportive dialogue, which compared to a lot of YouTube content, it's kind of hard to find. You know, I was doing comedy videos before, and the comedy audiences were less than savory, I think is a proper term. But the running audience, at least on YouTube, has just been so supportive and so wonderful. And it just has gradually turned into this community. And now the last 2 years specifically, it's really turned into friends. So people are now coming into this chat room, they're meeting each other here, and then they're meeting each other in real life to support one another at these events, whether it's crewing or pacing, or just celebrating each other at a finish line. And we see it now all the time. Every month, there's some race that someone is racing, and they mention it in the chat room, and then someone else is racing that race, and all of a sudden we get pictures of the two of them running together at this race. And it is the coolest sort of use of social media. There's a lot of talk about how social media is ruining people's lives, and we're getting sucked into our phones and that. And while we wholeheartedly agree with a lot of that, this is a use of it that is really unique and beautiful and needs to be celebrated. We wanted to create an event that would, so GRGR, our global run, Originally, I mean, it's a virtual run, but we now want to call it a global run because I think virtual run gets too much negative connotation because it really has become a global thing. Our global run was kind of, I guess, our first foray into race directing. It's logistically it's still very hard because there's a
Mhm.
lot of work that goes into creating GRGR. It looks
Yes.
very easy and it looks like we just post something on a website and people register. There's so much behind the scenes work that involves a lot of organization and ordering of items and merchandise and all these upfront costs and everything like that. But it was sort of a dipping the toes into the race directing sort of world. We always wanted to create an in-person event, something that people could come and run either with us or an event that we created and run our course. And that was, I mean, we've had this idea for probably close to 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
We've been talking about doing running camps and uh, vacations, and there's all these ideas that we've been throwing at each other and throwing at each other. And it wasn't until we moved back up here to Seattle, where I grew up and Kim lived very close to in Vancouver, we started running these local trails and falling in love with what are called the Issaquah Alps. That's where a majority of our training takes place.
Yep.
They're very approachable mountains. They're 20 minutes outside of the city of Seattle. Plenty of parking, a lot of really friendly faces on the trails, and they're a great dynamite place to sharpen your teeth for any big mountain trail race. You can get tons of vertical gain. You can get lots of flowy single track. You can get some technical climbs and descents, all sorts of weather, all sorts of conditions, and it's all can be pretty tough. Like these Issaquah Alps have, they have teeth, and as we started to explore more and more and get more familiar with the area, Tiger Mountain was one that stood out to us because I Tiger Mountain was the first Issaquah Alp that I ran.
Mhm. Same.
Yep, about 5 years ago, I ran with my good friend Ben, who's up here. He had been training on there for a long time, and he's like, "Hey, you should come run this trail called Poo Poo Point with me." And I came up. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I came up and I ran with him, and it destroyed me. I was like, well, one, it was beautiful, and two, it just wrecked me because the climb and the descent. It was really rocky and technical and muddy that day, and I just had all of these really terrible memories of it. I was going, "Holy crap, this is some rough trails in Washington, just outside of Seattle."
The funny thing is that, like, we love Tiger Mountain so much, and that's why we put the race on there, but, like, you're describing your first experience on Tiger Mountain, and you're like, "It was terrible, it was rough." And my first big
Yeah.
experience on Tiger Mountain was also one of my most terrifying days on a mountain ever.
Yeah. And that was with the same friend, Ben.
And with my other friend, Lynn, and I was unfamiliar with the mountain,
Yeah.
and Lynn was kinda just starting to get into trail running, and Ben had kinda given us a route to take, and we're up a mile or 2 miles and we're in,
Snow.
feet of snow.
It was snowing. It was
It
getting
was getting
dark.
dark.
It was every naive mistake you could make in a mountain run. Our guide was very experienced, and so for him, this was normal. For us, who hadn't moved back to Washington, and this was kind of our first like dig into this mountain together. It was a bad night. Like there were moments where we were both. So Ben and I ran, and you and your friend Lynn
Mhm.
ran, and we were going separate routes, and we started to retrace our footprints in the snow, and we saw your footprints, and they were going the wrong way, and we were like, "Oh no, this is going to turn into a rescue night." We came across you on a trail that you weren't supposed to be on, but was a good trail to be on because it was the fastest route down. Those trails
We
are
love
all
Tiger
in
Mountain, you
Tiger
guys.
Claw. Like, what's crazy is those trails are what inspired Tiger Claw because they're all in the
Yes.
race. They just happened to be under feet of snow that day, and this was years ago. So we knew that we wanted to create a race. We knew that we wanted to make a distance that was approachable to a lot of athletes at various levels in their journey. So we have lots of viewers that maybe aren't running ultras yet. We have lots of viewers who have run dozens, if not hundreds, of ultras. So we wanted to create an event that would be challenging for those who may be unfamiliar with the distances and really challenging for those who are very familiar with the
Mhm.
distances. We wanted it to be sort of this equal approach. We wanted to time it in the year where it would work for everybody so they could use it as a training for really difficult like big mountain hundreds, or they could use it as like an early A race in the
They would
year.
have time enough to train
Yes.
up for this being an early A race.
Like if you have terrible winters where you live, then this would give you just enough time to get that training up to where you needed it to be out on trails and stuff. So we wanted to time it at a very specific time of year. We also didn't want it to conflict with any local races. We have too much respect for local race directors who've put years and years into making their events amazing. And so we made sure that it did not conflict with any local events, both on that mountain, surrounding mountains, and any areas within Washington and Oregon. It does conflict with some races in California, which is obviously where I spent my last 10 years and where I really started to trail run. Unfortunately, I mean, you can't
plan your race
do
around
that.
every other race that's happening, or you will never have a
You'll
race.
never have a race because there's no weekend that doesn't have a race.
Exactly.
So there were a lot of things that we needed to make sure were in line with our original vision. And then we wanted to make a course that was unique. So not just distance-wise, gain-wise, but also added what I feel like we are always trying to do something fun with what we create. So with all of our films, there's lots of little fun details and fun nuance. With our reviews, it was always about the entertainment / education. So there was always some twist to it, right? With GRGR, there's always twists to that. And like we do different awards, different categories. So with Tiger Claw, at this point it wasn't called Tiger Claw, we wanted to create something that hadn't really been done before. So we were out on Tiger one day, and I think we were coming down the West Tiger 3 Trail. And I think I came up with the idea because we had gone up a route that I hadn't gone up in a long time. And I was thinking about another route up to the top of the mountain that I used to go on all the time. I was like, oh, I wonder if we could do a double summit. Like, I wonder if there's a couple ways that we can go to the top. And this sort of idea stuck with me, and it started to blossom into a deeper idea of what if we created an event on Tiger Mountain that used some of the most iconic ascents to the top of the mountain. And how would we get people down? What if we used a single descent, which is the West Tiger 3 Trail? So the logistics started to work in my brain of, well, we got to do Poo Poo Point Trail. Because Poo Poo Point Trail is a beautiful...
It's one of like our favorites. Yeah. It's like, I think that was like one of our kind of first...
Yeah.
This is kind of the classic route that people go up.
It's... the race version is a bit different, but the one that we would always do goes up Poo Poo Point Trail and takes you to this area called Poo Poo Point, where there's these paragliders that take off from this landing and go off into this beautiful view. There's a couple routes that go up to this point, but it's an approachable 2.5, 3 mile climb to Poo Poo Point. And I guess it's more 3.5, but 3.5 miles to Poo Poo Point from where we would normally start. And then we would turn around and come back down. But there's lots of routes from there further up the mountain. So we knew we had to incorporate Poo Poo Point because it's an iconic ascent. One of my favorite trails on the mountain is called Nook Trail. It's lush green, moss dripping off of trees sort of trail that gets often overlooked because it hits a trail called Section Line about maybe a quarter of the way up Section Line. So most people don't even use Nook. They use the bottom part of Section Line to get to Section Line. So
this is the bottom of Pink Loop.
Yeah, bottom of Pink Loop for anyone watching. White Loop. For anyone watching.
I'm fine.
You're fine.
It's fine.
So anyways, Section Line is another climb. Section Line is a very kind of short, gritty, straight up sort of climb. And it's used by a lot of local runners as both an up and a down to really work the mountain legs on longer runs. And then the third ascent was a trail that I had never run before. On a map, you can find the trail. You can follow it up. And I'd only done a portion of it called K3. This is the Pink Loop. And the portion on K3, I'd only done from a different point and then straight up. And I like viscerally remember hating, I was running with Ben again. I was like, remember hating Ben for taking me up this route because it was just like so steep towards the top. All three of these routes summit the same peak. In a matter of speaking, you can basically connect all three peaks to this one peak. So I started to think like, well, we have our three ascents. What if we made it so runners had to go up an ascent and then down this descent? The West Tiger 3 descent is this wide, super accommodating. What was that?
A ruler.
Super wide, super accommodating trail that heads straight from the top right down to the bottom to a parking lot. It's very wide. It can accommodate a lot of hikers. It's a very busy trail, but on any given day, we went out there for, I think, about 4 months straight every Saturday to count how many hikers were on it, depending on the hour of day. And we never counted more than 25 hikers. So it was never an issue with traffic or anything like that. I was like, I think we could actually put people down this descent. And so then the idea was formed. I wanted to do an event that was 3 different loops with one common descent, and runners could pick their order. So that was the twist. Was that
That's the
runners?
monkey wrench.
That's the
Yeah,
monkey
that's
wrench.
yeah.
The runners could choose to go up poo-poo point or up section line or up K3. But they got to choose their order, and then there's one common descent. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is it. How in the hell do we make this happen? Because logistically, it could only really work from one trailhead. And that trailhead is one of the it's one of the busiest trailheads in the Issaquah Alps. There's limited parking. There's parking down along this street. It's also very limited. And on any given Saturday, it can be very busy. We wanted to make sure that we were giving our runners, depending on if we could even get permitting for this, but we wanted to make sure our runners had a great experience from beginning to end. So we wanted to make sure that parking didn't put them in a bad mood. So they showed up at the start line like mad because they had to walk a long ways. But we also wanted everyone to be able to be accommodated with parking. So there's all these logistics that kind of went into the design of that, the start line, and where they were going to do these loops because there's lots of permitting involved. And that's kind of where everything sort of came to a stop. We had the idea. We didn't know how to execute the permitting. We didn't know how to execute the parking. And we also didn't know how to execute keeping track of runners and timing. What's going on in the chat room? I sense there's stuff.
No, some of the runners are talking about their loop order, and I asked the question in the chat room. Runners, feel free to put it in there. I'm just asking people what was their favorite and least favorite loop. That's where I'm at. Boundary, where'd it go? Boundary Condition says picking the order of the loops was super cool, both in the race and before and after, for the cool conversations with the other runners.
So I don't think this has ever been done. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going off the mindset that no one has done something like this where the loops in a trail race. I think orienteering races, randomness is part of the game. So we'll get to how that sort of crossed over with us here in a second. But in a trail race, I don't think there's been anything like this where the runners get to choose their route in an attempt to either better their time or to get an advantage over another runner. And I think it was a really fun sort of mental thing. And the more we thought about it, the more we realized this means the front runners may potentially not know who's actually in first. Both men and women aren't going to know who's in first place if they split up. And so it dawned on us, well, then all the elites are just going to go with each other. So if one sees one go one way, maybe. But how can we make it where those runners maybe don't want to go with one another? And so we added the bonus at the top. Red Bull was amazing. A company, obviously, everyone's familiar with.
A small little company. Maybe you've heard of it.
Out of Austria. I don't know if you've heard of it. But our friends at Red Bull, who I've worked with on some video shoots in the past, were like, we want to help out. And I was like, hey, we have this idea to give a little bonus money to the first person up each route, thinking this would be a great way to split up that lead pack. You sort of get that bonus to the top. And they were like, we're in. $100 bonus to anyone at the top of each loop, first person. And that worked. It actually split up the lead pack to get them to find different ascents in hopes of maybe earning a little $100 bonus at the top, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, and the 3 people that did score that bonus were all, I think, within our top 5.
Mm-hmm. They were in the top 5. Yeah.
I think top 5. Yeah. And along with the $100 bonus, we also threw in a bag of the Anchorhead coffee. We figured they would need a little pep in their step. Or they had it in that morning. And maybe they need more.
Yeah. So Anchorhead was awesome. It's a local coffee company that hooked us up with coffee beans and cold brew at the start. People were freaking out over that. It was really neat. So the idea of having the separate loop thing was really, really cool. So the first logistic that we had to overcome was permits. So permitting from a race director's perspective, this was our first time ever even considering it because we've never done like an event like this or had people come to an event. Holy crap. When you're dealing with multiple agencies, it's overwhelming. And talking to other race directors, we were dealing with 3 and that is actually a small number compared to some races. Some races deal with a lot more than that. Double, triple, quadruple that number.
And some races deal with 1.
Yeah. And some races deal with 1. most of that was like really easy to work with. There was just a lot of like, we imagined, oh, we'll file for a permit and it will get approved in 2 weeks, or we'll hear feedback, or maybe we won't. What was that?
I was going to say, I imagined we're going to file for a permit and we're not going to get approval this year. This is going to be a 2020 thing.
Yeah, we heavily were basically, when we applied for a permit, we had our permits ready to go last summer.
Yeah.
We were ready to apply, but no one takes the permits apparently that early. So for 2019 event, they could only take them in 2019. So we had to kind of go through the right processes and the right people and file them at the right time.
Yeah, and we just didn't really know what to expect.
We were thinking we're going to get not disapproved, but like, maybe not this year.
Yeah,
but
you need to change this and this and this.
Yeah.
You need to resubmit, blah, blah,
2020.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much it. Jump ahead almost 2 months. We finally got, well, I guess it was 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We got approvals on all fronts. And it was like, when we got that email of approval, it was, oh my God, this is approval for 2019. It's real. We really need to start moving, because at that point we couldn't like book our porta potties. We couldn't open up registration. There was all these things on a first year that the mistakes I did not want to make.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to open up registration and then have a permit come back and say, you can't do it, and then have to refund 200 people their money back. So we wanted to play everything perfectly right and do everything by the book. And when we got our approvals, we opened up registration, and we didn't know what to expect, because we still had yet to figure out the rest of the pieces to this puzzle. Timing, parking. We had sort of plans, but it was one of those things that I'm like, we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
We just, let's see if we can do it this year.
And also, let's see if anyone signs up.
So Patreon crew, our GR crew members, knew all about this. They knew the whole process. They knew what to expect. We opened up registration to them first, and we'll do the same next year.
Yeah, there was already a question in the chat room. I think it might have been Ingan that asked if Patreon get early access, because Ingan's worried that it's going to sell out too fast.
Patreon crew will absolutely get early access next year, as will our volunteers this year. So all of our volunteers who helped us out this year get early access to registration. Patreon also gets first dibs. So we opened up to Patreon. We had a lot of people from Patreon sign up, and we were like, oh man, now we've got 20 people. Like, this is going to be a race. Or no, we've got 30 people. This is going to be a race. And then within 10 days, it had sold out.
Which blew our minds.
Couldn't fathom it, because first year event, pretty late notice.
Mm-hmm.
This was in February that we announced a May race. And probably 90% of the people that we had talked to about, hey, you should come run this race that we're going to hopefully do, 90% were like, oh, it's the week after this race, or it's the week before this race, or I'm just out of town. Like, I have these plans, or I'm racing somewhere else that day. So we anticipated a pretty minimal first year turnout, but we were very happy about that.
We were like, even if we get 50%, that would be amazing.
And that might even be too much.
Yeah.
The parking lot, like, our minds kept going back to, we're going to be fucked on parking, because it is a small lot.
So let's get to a question from the chat room. Paul in the chat room asked, what were some of your biggest concerns as race director heading into the event? And parking was definitely way up there as far as like, what are we worried about? I think I had night sweats about parking.
Yeah, we both did.
95% of the days after we got permit approval.
Parking. Course vandalizing.
Uh-huh.
People on the trails. It's a very popular area.
Like, not wanting to make people upset or whatever.
We had the intention, like, our intention was to make this an event for everybody. We had really good time cutoff. So even if hikers who normally visit this mountain wanted to do this event, they could. We wanted it to be inclusive, because we know that trail runners aren't the only people that use Tiger Mountain. We're fully aware of that. So we wanted it to be a community thing. Some of these ideas that came later in the game were a big part of that, like the food truck and things like that at the finish line. We wanted those who just showed up at the trail, like, really mad that there's a trail race, maybe weren't mad, and maybe would go, well, this is kind of cool, and just hang out and like want to celebrate us, right? So yes, what was the point? What was the start of that?
Things that were concerning to us, parking.
Yes. And then finally timing. So,
and also porta potties.
And porta potties. I don't, man, I'm sure there's race directors in the chat room or we'll watch this in archive or something, but it is weird when your brain shifts from running a race to organizing a race. You start looking at porta potties on the side of the road and going, I wonder where they got those. I
We
wonder
were
how much
out
those
for
cost.
we were out for lunch today with two of our friends, and a flatbed truck with porta potties on it drove by, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if those are ours. I wonder if they."
That
I
looks
was
like ours.
You know
That's
what?
great.
We're like eating. I'm obsessed with porta potties
We
now.
see
Is what
traffic
I'm saying.
cones and traffic delineators on the road at construction sites, and we often go, I wonder if they'll miss 14 of those because we need 14 for our parking lot. But like you start picking apart things because you're constantly making lists. That's really what you're doing.
Yes.
Is you're constantly making lists of things that need to get done, purchased, whatever. And it just changes your vision. When I'm making a movie, it's the same sort of thing. I see shots, I see angles, I see light, I see. It's a much different perspective from like a filmmaker's perspective. As a race director, I'm seeing things in a weird light that I've never looked at things before. I wonder if that space could accommodate 150 people and like bib check-in tables. And I wonder if they have tables. I wonder how much additional cost that, all those sorts of things. I don't mind it. It's just different.
It is different.
When Kim and I are driving on a road trip and we talk about the cost of porta potties because we just drove by a construction site with like two different brands of porta potties and we're debating which brand would be better to go through.
I'm like, oh, Spiffy Biffy.
Oh, Honey Bucket. I wonder if Honey
Bucket
Bucket can deliver on a Saturday versus a Friday and have it picked up on a weekday. So race director problems.
It's glamorous.
It's glamorous live. So let's kind of talk about each of those problems individually. With parking, we knew that was going to be the major thing, right?
Yeah.
So we planned well in advance, letting all of our runners know to carpool. We believe carpooling is a huge benefit to a race organizationally, especially at a start line. If we could get one runner to take another runner, that would reduce our carbon footprint by half. You would only have half as many cars driving runners to the start line. And it would reduce our parking congestion by half. So our parking volunteers would have to work a little bit less to keep the traffic organized. So not only carpooling, but trying to work out like meet at a destination and get multiple people into a car and get that driving. We had so many people volunteer their vehicles. People that live locally that were like, hey, I'll go to the hotel and pick up as many out-of-towners as possible and drive them to the start line. I'm not running. I just want to help. Like that sort of thing happened.
We have Gretchen Walla, a good friend of ours,
Great
who
friend.
we love so dearly, is in the parking lot right now. Is in the chat room right now.
I was like, is she? Can she confirm our porta potties have been picked up?
Gretchen in the chat room. She's a very seasoned race director, as well as like helping with a lot of other community stuff here. And she also was saying that parking is one of her main concerns as well.
It always is, because you never know if you have 200 people, you have a sold out race, you have a parking lot that can accommodate 87 cars. 3 of those spots are handicapped. 4 of those spots were covered by a giant dumpster. Surprise. On Thursday. Surprise. Yes. The giant dumpster plus traffic cones and additional spots. That's 4 additional spots. Plus, you don't know who's just going to be there. Who's going to be parked overnight randomly, which happened. There's all these things that you just don't get to know until race morning. And it's a logistic that will, I think, drive every race director crazy unless they just have access to a park and ride, which we don't. So we made a plan. Carpooling was going to get the benefit of parking in the lot. Anyone who was drop off, we would have a designated drop off area, and then single drivers could park down at a separate parking road, which is 0.4 miles away from the start line, but accommodated a lot of cars. It just required a bit more walking. And what was amazing was that our runners carpooled. A large portion of them did. Not all of them did. That's okay.
And like strangers too.
Strangers with strangers. Yep. And it was a community. It was a way to get the community together in an organic way. And it just helped everything. It helped the start line be less congested. It helped parking work more flawlessly. The locals, listen, we're very used to local events and local runners just showing up the morning about 10 minutes before, grabbing a bib, jumping into the start line and racing their ass off, right? Like that's kind of the normal local vibe. It's really like low key and really old school ultra running. And that's just what we're used to. We knew we wanted to create an event that sort of reflected the events that we have raced in California, Lake Sonoma, Chuckanut 50K, some of these bigger Sean O'Brien, these bigger races that do accommodate more runners, and there's a lot of logistics involved. But sometimes you need to go pick up your bib the day before, additional things that runners need to do. So we were really surprised at how many local runners joined us in those pre-race celebrations and picked up their bib early, and it just made race morning so much easier logistically. But again, it's a first year race, so we had no idea how it was all going to play out. It was rolling the dice on like 50 different things, and everything came up aces, which is really neat. So parking, we worked out like 7 different plans. And if this plan failed, this was the backup, this was the backup, this was the backup. And luckily, our first tier plan continued to work throughout the morning. And our volunteers who did parking were amazing. They were the first to arrive, the first to don the parking vest. They are an underappreciated role, and I need to take a second to recognize them.
Yes.
And we gave them all Nathan headlamps, which is really neat. Nathan donated some headlamps to give to our parking volunteers. They got to keep those. Little perk.
Oh, parking volunteers, if you happen to leave one of your own headlamps in our bin, shoot me an email.
We have it. Or just keep the Nathan one. Probably better. Who knows? I don't know. Go ahead.
Let's move on from parking.
Yep.
I feel like parking's boring.
So boring. No one cares.
I mean, it's interesting because we spent like half of our last 6 months obsessing over it. But I'm sure people want to hear.
Let's talk about
more fun things.
Timing. Okay, so timing. So this is also where Gretchen
lots of questions about timing in the
Gretchen
chat room.
was such a huge asset in this. So our idea for timing, we were going the route of let's just track their finish time. So the baseline stat that we needed was just a finish line time. By doing our registration through Ultra Signup offers a free app where you can basically time runners on checkpoints. If it's a point-to-point race where you have 8 stations, so point A to point D with B and C in between.
Austin thinks it's her headlamp.
Oh, maybe it is Austin. Maybe.
I'll throw it away.
Just burn it. If you have a point A to point C race with B and or B as an aid station, it's really easy to create a layout of that course in that Ultra Signup map for timing, or the app for timing. We did not have that. We did not have a point A to point D sort of race. We had a point A to B to C to B to D to B, but there's no way to accurately do that. So Ultra Signup's response was the most basic response, which is exactly what is a correct answer. Is rather than having our runners randomly choose on race day their routes, we create the 6 routes on Ultra Signup and allow the runners to choose it in advance. The problem takes out all the randomness. So the runners now they have to register months in advance for an event, and then their loops are chosen for them already. And we really didn't want that. So we had to come up with a system that allowed for the randomness, allowed for that choice
on the fly,
and still create splits. I was so dead set on creating some sort of split. I wanted people to see something that they could compare to in the future. And so we were out of options because, the typical timing mat systems where people's bibs sort of, boop, as you cross over a timing map, that would have cost us
thousands.
A lot. And because they charge usually by the mat, and then they also charge by the staff who have to man the mat, and then they charge you by the hour. So there's 3 charges. You combine those all together and you get unaffordable.
And also the location of the upper was causing problems too. So we were trying to look for a solution, and actually I think the first kind of chit chat of what our solution ended up being occurred at Brian Morrison's trail camp.
Yep, Orcas Island Trail Camp.
We were kind of like talking, having beers, and Caroline, who I think a lot of you guys know, was like at the Orcas Relay, which is one of Gretchen's races. She's like, they do this weird like finger thing. And I was like, finger thing?
Yeah, the way she described it
I was like,
what?
I had no idea. She's like, you just put your thing. I was like, what are you talking
Yeah, she kept saying you put your finger in the hole. You just put your finger in the hole.
What does that mean?
So what is this? She's like, well, it's a little piece of plastic that you have on your finger, and you put it in a hole, and it like tracks your chip, and then you take it and you hand it to the next relay member, and then they run with it. I was like, what is that? So Gretchen, who's in the chat room, she works with Northwest Trail Runs and also Cascade Orienteering Club. And so I reached out to Gretchen, who works this relay. She's a part of it. And I was like, what is this system that you guys use? And would it work for Tiger Claw? She goes, oh, maybe.
That sounds just like Gretchen.
This is my Gretchen impression. I am Gretchen.
It needs more face paint.
Yeah. So Gretchen put us in touch with the people, the race director for Northwest Trail Runs, Eric, and also Cascade Orienteering Club, Eric. 2 different Erics. And we had a meeting, and we all kind of sat down and kind of talked through the map and sort of where runners would go and that sort of thing. And it was like, they were like, yeah, this would totally work. It's a very basic system that has very advanced potential. It is an orienteering system. Runners in orienteering races run with these little things called e-punches, or they're electronic punches. And as they reach an orienteering control, they can scan their, I almost said boop, they can scan their e-punches, and it records a time, and they can choose their controls at random. It's really neat. That's why orienteering races are so cool. Highly encourage you guys to check them out, because this system alone sold me on orienteering. I was like, wow, it's super advanced, but yet so basic. The system was going to work for Tiger Claw. We were going to be able to record splits from bottom to top and from top to bottom.
And that also gave us gave us a stat of knowing that our finishers are actually going to all those checkpoints in the correct order.
We knew we wanted to keep our runners safe by knowing where they were. We wanted to know in case of an emergency. We also wanted to know that no one was cheating, so we could create destinations at top and bottom in multiple locations that proved runners went through the entire system. The system was affordable. It was easy to use. There was the hurdle, though, of convincing 200 trail runners that this system was good.
And easy.
Yeah. So I created a video. That basically described the system and showed just how easy it was. Everyone loved it.
And let's just back up a little bit, because there was
Except for one person.
Let's just back up a little bit, because there was some questions of like, boop your booper, where did boop come from? So the early on in our meetings between the 4 of the core staff here, there was no better way. It just kept coming up. I was like, boop. Just like boop.
Because it makes a beep.
Boop.
It makes an actual boop sound. So we ended up just saying, like, don't forget to boop your booper.
Because that's what it was for us.
Yeah. We knew that we
Gus
had
is snoring
really
so
loudly.
loud.
We had to emphasize that runners could not lose these e-punches. We had to source the right number of e-punches, because they're very expensive little pieces of plastic. They're about $50 a pop. And to source 200 of them was tough. Like, there's not many of those that you can rent in any one location. Orienteering is a pretty niche sport, and most orienteers already have their own. So to have 200 just loose e-punches was difficult, but we got them. And we had to convince the runners, one, not to lose them. If they did, it would cost $50. But also how to use it, and that it would be super easy. And it was. And they loved it.
One of my favorite comments on one of our Instagram posts about how none of the boopers got lost was, that's surprising, as it wasn't very clear that we weren't supposed to lose our booper.
I made it very clear at the pre-race briefing and at the race itself not to lose the e-punch. So the cool thing about this is that now it gives us incredible detail in data. So now we know specific times between boops at the aid stations. There's all sorts of timing things that we can analyze. We can also analyze the runner's choice of routes and specific times between runners on different routes.
How long you guys took at the aid station?
Here are some stats. And again, Austin is working with their spreadsheet to figure out some of the coolest stuff to present to everybody. And I'm going to see if I can come up with some like visual elements to sort of design it out. But
yeah, so right now, final finish times are on Ultra Sign Up.
Yes.
And we will be giving a very, like a bigger detailed spreadsheet.
Yes.
Soon.
So this is just an example of some of the data sets. And this is also courtesy of Darren and Austin, who kind of did some of the number crunching while we were emptying our U-Haul yesterday. There, out of our 163 finishers, there was a total of 1,640 possible boops, just based off of everyone having to boop a certain number of times at different boop points. So 1,640 boops possible. We had 1,639 boops recorded, meaning one person forgot to boop at the top of the blue descent, and we know who that person is.
And we'll be calling you out publicly. No, we won't.
No, we won't. It's totally fine. We were able to just decipher the split pretty easily. It just makes you have a much longer split with the aid station, but that person I'm sure does not care. We can look at things like the fastest blue descent. So just that descent from the top to the bottom, we can see that the fastest blue descent was 17 minutes and 46 seconds.
Which is crazy.
Crazy fast. This is a 3.7 mile descent. You lose about 2,800 feet of gain, something like that, because there's an additional climb and descent in there as well. That was by Gus Gibbs. And that was on their first descent. And he beat David Laney by 2 minutes. David Laney left the top first. Gus Gibbs caught and passed and gapped David Laney by 2 minutes by the time he reached the bottom boop. The fastest blue female descent was 22 minutes, 27 seconds by Maria Dalzot, which was her second loop. So it wasn't even her first or her last descent. It was her second descent that was the fastest overall by a female. 52% of males preferred yellow as their first loop, and 55% of females preferred yellow as their first loop. You can see stats like that. The longest time spent at the upper aid station was 9 minutes and 56 seconds. I think Darren, who was sort of the overseer of the upper aid station, calls that the king of chair up at the top. Almost 10 minutes exactly spent there. And the shortest by David Laney, 4 seconds. 4 seconds just to get from the top of the climb boop to the top of the descent boop. That alone isn't 4 seconds. So I like the speed.
That's a David Laney 4 seconds. Though.
Yeah, that's like a boop.
That's like my 5 minutes.
Like that's ridiculous. So stats like that we get to see. We're going to break it apart and show you all sorts of cool stuff. There's lots of. Oh wait, I think I actually have more.
Yeah,
I have it here.
Let's do it.
Fastest time up each color loop as their final loop. So this is also known as the gonna vomit or gonna explode loop. Yellow loop was.
I don't like that.
Darren named it, so take it with a grain of salt. Darren's watching, I'm sure. The yellow loop as the last loop, the fastest time up for males was 1 hour, 2 minutes. That was Paul Weeks. And the fastest up for female, the last loop, was 1 hour, 18 minutes. And that was Lindsay Knezevich. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Knezevich. The white loop, fastest up as the last loop, was 34 minutes, 40 seconds. David Laney. By the way.
This is on last loop?
This is last loop up white loop.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Which is called section line. So if any of you locals want to go do section line and you want to test your mettle.
See how far you get in
34 minutes and 40 seconds.
I'd still be on Nook.
And this is still after Poo Poo Point and Tiger Mountain Trail and K3.
Yes.
So this is the third. This is ridiculous. And for male was 40 minutes and 1 second, which is incredibly fast. And that was Claire DeVoe.
That was female. You mean.
That was female. Yeah. What did I say?
Male.
Yes. Oh God. 40 minutes, 1 second for female. Fastest up third loop white, Claire DeVoe. Fastest third pink loop was 42 minutes, 13 seconds for men. That was Ben Brown. And 46 minutes, 27 seconds for female. That was Maria Dalzot. Like, these are insane times on these loops on fresh legs. And this is all you're doing that
last
day.
Loop.
And this is on their last loop. Yeah. I won't talk about the slowest time each loop. I think those are some of the stats. We're getting through a whole bunch more. Oh my gosh. Some of the stats that we have are just amazing. We can see so many of these things just by analyzing the data in certain ways. So again, we'll break down a whole cool whole visualization and like spreadsheet and stuff. You guys can go through and analyze that. A big question regarding loop order and what was the most popular.
Yeah, Deb Hammerlin in the chat room says, what was the favorite order of the majority of runners chose to run? And was there an advantage to do it in a specific order?
So I do have a little visualization that our wonderful representative at Cascade Orienteering Club, Eric.
And as far as like an advantage to doing it in a specific order, I think it works with this particular runner's strength and their knowledge of the mountain.
Correct.
Right? So like, I look at yellow loop and I can't run that loop. But some of our speedsters are like, I love yellow loop because I can just run the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, super fast. And I'm like, I hate yellow loop because I'm there for like 3 days.
Yeah. And we start talking about the stats of, so white loop is usually the steepest and shortest section line. And people wanted to do that last because they're already tired. Their legs are going to be shot. It's going to be a hike anyway. So let's just do that last. And you start to analyze even deeper and go, well, you power hiking up on fresh legs versus you power hiking up on cold legs is actually maybe more of a dramatic difference than what it would be up a more less steep, longer route like yellow. So then you start taking into account, do tired legs actually influence a time differently than fresh legs up a steeper climb? Those types of things are crazy ways to dig deeper into this information. And I mean, I don't know if my mind can do that, but hopefully we can. So here's sort of a loop order of choices. This is going to go by gender. So pink, white, yellow, which is medium, steepest, longest. 1 female chose to go that way. 8 males chose to go that way.
There was somebody in the chat room. It might have been Stephanie that said she did yellow as her. I guess there's other yellow
is
last
yeah,
options.
there's one other yellow is last.
Yeah.
Pink, yellow, white. So yellow is the middle one. 4 females and 21 males chose to do that. That was the 4th most popular option. The least popular option, which surprised me, I knew there was going to be one. 2 females chose to do white, pink, and then yellow. And 6 males chose to do white, pink, yellow, which is section line K3 poo-poo point.
I'm wondering, was that Paul's order? Do you know what his...
That was Paul. I believe that was Paul Weeks.
He started with white.
He ended with yellow. Started with white.
So that paid off for him.
It did. 3rd place, which is pretty amazing. And that was the least chosen option altogether. Then white, yellow, pink. So steepest, longest, and most medium. That's 17 females, 23 males. The most popular for male option here was yellow, pink, white. And that was 11 females chose that option and 31 males chose that option. So it was very popular with males to do that. And then finally, yellow, white, and then pink. So longest, steepest, and the more medium was 18 females and 29 males chose to do it that way.
Okay, Stephanie Tatum says, I did white, pink, yellow.
She's one of the 2 females that did that.
2 females, yeah.
So what's interesting is, Stephanie, you were one of 2 females going up white at that early time. So it probably felt lonely. And that's what's kind of crazy, is that some of the loops felt lonely. Like no one was on them. In this case, 8 people were on that loop, and they were probably separated by 20 or 30 minutes, and they had no idea.
Yep.
Some of the highlights from the event, we loved seeing the fact that the elite men and women at some points had no idea if they were in first place or not, or what position they were compared to others. Our winner, David Laney, finished in 3 hours and 13 minutes, which is by all considerations stupid fast. Stupid fast. It takes us that long to do one of the loops. Like, that's pretty normal. To get up one loop, get down, maybe get up another loop, maybe get down 2. But like 3 hours and 13 minutes to complete all 3 is bonkers. 2nd place male was Gus Gibbs, just a little bit beyond him. I forgot to pull up the times on my...
Yep.
I can pull up.
I got them right here.
You got it right there. I think it was 3:17.
Gus Gibbs was 3:17 flat.
Yep. So just like 4 minutes behind David Laney. And I remember Gus coming across, and he had no idea what place he was in.
That was the fun part.
When he said that, I was like, yes, this is what I want. Gus crosses the finish line because he couldn't see David in front of him. He couldn't see anyone behind him. So Gus crosses, and Gus, bless his heart, he's just the nicest guy. He broke a sweat, but he's just like ready to keep going. He's like, where did I win? Did I win? And like David Laney standing there. No. Like David's like, hey, I got it done. It was so cool to see. David, I think, knew that he had won. Well, also we were like, you won. But,
yeah.
But I don't know if he knew coming down the descent. Maybe he did. Maybe he was able to keep his eye on the other dudes. And then in 3rd place, Paul Weeks in a 3:29. So we had seen him a week prior.
Yeah. Fun fact about Paul Weeks' finish time. We saw him at the Chirico 10 Pete. Was it a full week prior?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just hanging out, and I was asking him, hey, like, do you know your order? What kind of time do you think you'll shoot for? And he was kind of like casually like, well, I kind of like love to like shoot for sub 3:30. And I was like, really?
Yeah, we were both kind of like, oh, boy.
And I was like, that's faster than we think anybody will do it. And he was like, all right, well, I'll take that. I'll change that from my arbitrary kind of like, maybe to like, I'm going to get sub 3:30.
And he did it. 3:29.45. So he did it by 15 seconds.
Which is crazy.
I mean, that's all in that descent. Like the descent, you just got to push so hard to make that happen. Let's move on to the ladies. This is really cool too, because the
women, yeah.
This is one of the coolest parts of this race. the three women finished their second loop together.
Yeah, if you follow my stories, I just happened to be on the one stretch of trail where they're heading down to the lower aid station. I was there at like the perfect time, and I saw all three of the top women running together.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting.
Because they all, two of them were on the same final loop, but Maria had her own plans because she was going on her final loop alone. So the three of them came in together, but they all left going different directions.
Right.
So Maria had no idea where Claire or Ladia was, and Claire and Ladia were on the same ascent, but they also, maybe they were going to race each other, or like who would push harder on the ascent? Could they be caught on the descent? As it turns out, Maria pushed so hard on that pink climb up TMT.
Which is longer.
It's longer than what both Claire and Laddie were doing. They were doing the steeper, shorter climb. So Maria had to push extra hard. She got to the top. I don't know by how many seconds. We can figure this out because we have those stats in hand. But Claire came down the descent first, then Maria, then Laddie.
Yeah, so down. Claire was first place in 3:55.31. Maria shortly behind at 4:02.18, and Ladia at 4:08.57, which is crazy.
All three of these times are crazy fast. Take into account this. Claire had just qualified. She just got her OTQ the week before. Fire fast before. She got the weekend before she got her OTQ. So fancy. Maria won the Yakima 25K a couple of weeks before. So she had like some rough legs from that trail, which is super steep. And Ladia had just ran the Boston Marathon. So all three of them had some huge races in the weeks previous to this. And this overall quad destroyer did not seem to destroy their quads at all. So it was really, really neat. What's really cool about this also being a first year race, this was a reach goal for us, was to have prize money for our winners, because we wanted to celebrate the feats of athletic ability out there on our home trails. We had locals vying for it. We had out-of-towners vying for it. So not only did we have a $100 bonus at the top of each climb to sort of spice things up, courtesy of Red Bull, but Sufferfest beer was, as we are drinking tonight, a little shout out to them. They have been friends of ours for a long time. We went for trail runs with them in California. We got to meet the owners. They're fantastic humans and athletes, and the whole company is athletes, which is really, really neat. They make beer that's, I don't think they can call it gluten-free, but it's full-on gluten-reduced. It's like delicious, delicious beer. But they were on board with getting prize money to the winners, which is rad. So $500 for first place female and male, $300 for second place female, male, and $200 for third place female and male. So we actually get to pay people.
And along with some Spring Energy gift cards as well.
Yeah, Spring Energy also hooked it up. They were super gracious in donating gels for the aid stations. They have been our nutrition of choice for the last year. Their Canterbury is by far my favorite gel flavor I've ever tasted. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And we had that at the aid stations for runners to enjoy. Territory Run Company, want to give them a shout out too. Brett has hooked it up. These hats, we have hoodies. They're available right now.
Oh,
yep. Oh, yeah. There you go. And on the back is the Tiger Claw logo on the back.
I don't think I can turn around.
It's okay. It's a quite, yeah, you get the idea. You can see some pictures online and stuff like that. But these are available right now. There are a very limited number. We basically limited to 100. I don't know how many we have left from the weekend, but if you go to runtigerclaw.com, at the top, there's a little merch tab. Just click that. It takes you right to Territory's website. It's a pre-order limited quantity. You get those now, and then Brett will ship those directly to you.
And they're shipping soon. It's not like a pre-order that's going to be 3 months or anything.
He got us these like in days. He basically printed them and got them to us in days. So Brett is fantastic. So once those are sold, they'll be shipped, and get them, because once they're gone. And we love our hoodies, and they're flipping awesome. I hope you guys get a chance to get the hats. The hats on the website are gray. So it's a dark gray and black. This is black on black, but the actual ones are going to be gray and black mesh. I like it better. I prefer the gray on black. I'll have to get one for myself. And then the hoodies this is a hoodie. It's a zippy hoodie.
Yes.
We are going to move into the post show here we're going to move here into the post show, but I also wanted to just mention that one of our wonderful viewers, Liz McCutcheon, is going to be giving away 3 of these hoodies to some of our Patreon members. So If you are a Patreon supporter, a GR crew member, we'll see you in the after show. And hopefully you can win one of the 3 hoodies that Liz is going to be hooking you up with. She ran and finished the race this weekend. It was really cool to see. She was our guest on last week's Ginger Runner Live, talking about her journey over the last 8 weeks, running multiple races. She wanted to give back to the community, so she'll be giving away 3 Zippies, which is just, it's wonderful. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Before we go on the post show, I feel like we have some important stories that we should share
Absolutely.
in the main show.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that since we were talking about merch and stuff. Go ahead.
You want me to get into it?
I do.
There's been people asking, what is the most memorable moment? What were the special moments that happened during the race? And I feel like we have a few to share. One of the favorites, I think, we had a runner, Rakesh. From India. He traveled to race from India. He was in the United States on work, and he reached out and was like, hey, I'm in the US. I happen to be like a week before. Can I extend my trip and then come race Tiger Claw? And the answer was clearly yes. So he joined us. And we were waiting at the finish line, and here he comes, the finish line. He gets to the finish line.
Doesn't cross,
and he goes,
1 second.
I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something along the lines. Do you remember what he said exactly?
He's like, hold on. I'm not going to finish. I have something for you.
I need to go get my friend.
And
we didn't really know. We didn't know the story behind this at the time, but we thought, well, this is special. Whatever is going on right now is pretty special.
Yeah, he had friends there as well, and they were like, what is he doing?
Yeah, because they were waiting at the finish line for him.
Yeah, it's like, just finish, Rakesh. So he turns around, he runs back, and he sort of disappears for a couple of minutes. And then he comes running in with Holly, our friend Holly. And then they finish together, and Holly boops at the finish, and then Rakesh booped. Like, Rakesh was very much like, please, Holly, you are the only reason why I'm here at this finish line.
Yeah. And so just to read, Holly had posted on one of our Instagram posts, and this is what Holly said. Holly said, I found my new friend coming down the white loop, giving up a quarter mile in, determined he wasn't injured, and proceeded to take no for an answer for the next 2,500 feet of vert. Turns out staying positive for someone else will do wonders for your own crappy outlook.
What had happened was Rakesh started his 3rd loop, got about a quarter mile up the white loop, which was his last, and it's section line. It gets super steep, and had basically given up and had turned around and was going to head back out, back to DNF. He ran into Holly, and Holly was not going to allow that to happen. So Holly's like, nope, you're coming with me. We're going to do this together. And so Holly and Rakesh proceeded to climb section line together. Holly wouldn't let him quit. He didn't. They both got to the top. They booped at the top. And then they joined one another on the descent down. And Rakesh arrived and just wanted to let us know, I am going to go get Holly, and we're coming in together. He didn't want to finish without her because she got him there.
Yes.
It was a really special thing, and a testament to this community and the people who are out there running on that course. They both had a great time. I think Rakesh was like I can't walk, but that was really, really fun. And it was such a wonderful moment that I never would have been able to experience had I not been a race director on that side of things. When you're running a race, you get your own sort of story, and you get to sort of experience your own day. But being a race director, you get to experience 200 days. And that was my favorite part, because every runner had their own unique experience when they came across the line. But that one for sure was by far one of the most that stood out. We had a lot of great hugs at the finish, and the last finisher across, we wanted to make sure that we highlighted because
listen, I have been that last person.
Technically
it was you. Yes, I know. It's all about you. I get it.
I'm kidding.
Being the last person sometimes feels lonely, and it sometimes feels sad, and sometimes it doesn't feel celebrated. Sometimes you get to the finish line and they're already ripping things down, or people are all gone.
Things
and
are quiet.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
It's lonely. It feels like they're just waiting for you so they can tear everything down. So we want to celebrate that last person.
Yeah, and actually this person, I'm going to wait for it. This individual is our GR crew member of the week. I had to pull up the graphic. I'm sorry about that. Courtney Cannon we designate the tiger tail because she is the completion of the tiger.
Yep.
She is the reason that we want to do this race. She is the reason that we wanted time cutoffs that would allow everyone to finish, and she did. She finished the entire thing. She didn't believe in herself the entire time. She had friends there and people there that were cheering her on as she got through it. She pushed on. So we were really, really happy to see her come to that finish line. It was incredible to be able to put a medal around her neck and give her a big hug. And we gave her a bag of coffee.
Mhm.
We gave her a pair of La Sportiva shoes, her choice of La Sportiva shoes, and an additional $50. We wanted to make sure that our tiger tail was just as respected as the front of the pack because the
Yes.
whole tiger is what it's all about. A big shout out to Courtney. It's like, I don't know, being a race director is really interesting and special because I never get to experience all the stories.
Right.
It's really, really neat. There's lots more, of course, that I want to talk about, like in the post show and stuff like that, regarding like the starting arch. There's some really interesting symbolism to that. At the a couple days before the race, we'll talk about the specifics of how it came together. But we had the starting arch in our possession about 24 hours before the race, and when I saw it put up for the first time, it was beautiful. It's a beautiful piece of woodworking. It's a beautiful piece of art, but it meant so much more to me than just the wood. It symbolized a lot. And part of what we wanted to do with Tiger Claw was recognize those 200 people that trusted us. They trusted us to put on an event that would challenge them, as well as prove to them that they could do really difficult things. So what we wanted to do was recognize the finishers by putting their names on this arch. So we get the honor of putting 163 names of our inaugural finishing class on this arch, and it will be on the arch for as long as the race is in existence. And it was a really special moment for me at the beginning of that race to be able to say that. No one knew except for you, and I think our friends Darren, and Austin.
You can call them Aaron. It's fine.
Dostin. So to be able to stand in front of 200 people and say that your name could be on this arch, and you could see people's eyes light up because maybe they were at that start line with not a lot of hope and not a lot of like
maybe they needed a little
bit extra. It was a really, really special moment, and there will only be one of those. And I think that's why I'm emotional about it, is because that moment will be that only time, because we don't anticipate putting plaques on the arch, because if we did this race for 50 years, it'd be too many plaques. The arch would be too big.
And like, as you were saying, like, it's like the people that signed up for our race, for our year one race, like we are so honored that you guys are trusting us and taking a chance on us, you know?
Yep. I mentioned it on my Instagram post, but I had a lot of self-inflicted pressure because I imagine that again, this is kind of the dark side of my mind, but I imagine that there's a lot of people that want to see me fail, and we're hoping that this event would not work. And how dare I try to be a race director? I don't have any place doing that. You know, my mind goes to those places. So I had a lot of self-inflicted pressure to try to create an event that was world class. And so I had a dozen reach goals.
Austin is so proud of you for using the term reach goals. I know she is.
Because I kept coming up with ideas, and everyone would look at me and go, not the first year. That's a second, that's a fourth, that's a 10th year thing. Like, why do you want to do this on the first? And I very rarely referenced the reason why, and it was because I needed to prove that we can do this, that when we can do it really well. Because I've worked with some incredible race directors, you know, Gary Robbins and Kira Henninger and Chrissy Mail and Lanktote, all the guys in California and people across the country, and of course the Thornleys and John and Lisa and everyone.
Kira Henninger.
Yeah, Candace Burt. I mean, they have proved, James Varner and Rain Shadow. They have proved that there is this tier of racing that I would always strive to create, and I wanted to prove that I was capable of it, and that Kim and I could do something like this. And I really truly feel now, 2 days after, that I think we did it. I think that we did something that surprised a lot of people, and I am honored to share the title of race director with you, Kim. And I think it's a really, really neat new facet of our lives.
I think every married couple should run an ultra together and also direct a race together. No, I'm proud of us for like.
I think it's along the same lines as running that ultra together. I think it's only made us better, and I think it's made us stronger. And the communication has been awesome. It like if you're a couple and you're looking at becoming race directors, it will help your communication. If it doesn't, you're done. But it really has helped a lot. Anyways, I'm gonna blabble. Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you. Thank you to all of our volunteers. Thank you, Darren, Austin, Kat, Ian, Jen, Jeff, Rachel.
Jen, Jeff, Kat, Ian, Rachel.
I just said that.
I need to emphasize their names too. Brian Morrison, Adam Huey, Chrissy Mail, Ellie and Caitlin Gerbin, Alex Borsick, Matt.
You need to stop because you're going to forget people.
I know. I'm literally going through the list. No. And
thank you to everybody who helped make this
David Laney, Brian.
Stop. Because then you're going to have, you said David Laney, now you have to say
because he volunteered on Friday.
Keep going.
No.
John Maxwell volunteered
on Friday. Yes, he did, John.
And he plays top 5.
Yes, he did, John Maxwell.
This is going to turn into a 3-hour show.
We also were told we would never get sponsors on our first year, and we did. And these are sponsors that we would not work with unless we trusted their products and used their products. That is part of why we also want to do what we do. Sufferfest beer hooked it up. Great party on Friday. Great
and also,
prize money.
Michael from Sufferfest, we have to give him a big shout out. He kind of came into this. He had to fly up from California, and he was very much like, whatever you guys need, I am here to support you guys.
Yes, so. Big shout out to Michael. He's got some great photos. The photo I posted on my Instagram is one of his. Really good. Paul Nelson, another great photographer, and Mark Griffith. They did incredible photos from that day. We're going to be getting those this week. Ryan Thrower made video and photos, and we're going to get a lot of that. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, there'll be a lot of media that we're going to be posting. I will be making a movie. It will be, I don't know what it's going to be yet, because I took 0 photos on race day, and I took 0 video on race day.
Photos on race day.
You'll see what we're going to be creating. I hope it's good, but it's going to be good. It'll come out soon. Squirrels Nut Butter made custom Squirrels Nut Butter packages for all of our runners. Just fantastic company. We love them to death. They're huge supporters of us as well. Spring Energy, La Sportiva, Red Bull, Bread at Territory, Spring Hill Sweets. We got to give them a shout out. The hotel, Quinn at the hotel was like flabbergasted.
She was amazing.
She took photos of the event before. She's like, I've never seen so many people here. She came to the race and took photos of the race.
I don't think she made it to the race.
Someone said she was there.
Oh. Was she there?
Someone said she was there. Austin, I think, said that she was there. She showed up.
Austin?
Anchorhead Coffee, they hooked it up. They're a local coffee roaster company.
If you guys live locally, go check out Anchorhead. Go say hi to Ross. Say thank you.
Croissant donut waffles.
Kerwaffle.
They make it, and it is insane. Fayou Tech, they're the ones that do camera gimbals. They hooked it up with a bunch of gimbals to give away. Some of our runners were carrying gimbals, making footage. That was a really wonderful get. Ultra Running Memes created memes for our course. I think it's the first race to ever have that. Pretty great. And finally, Noon electrolyte drink just was like last minute, incredible. Hooked us up with Noon for every aid station, plenty for every runner, and the runners went through it.
Thank you, Kevin and Mike at Noon, for making a last minute request happen for us. They're a local company. We love them.
Cool.
Quinn was there, apparently.
That's what I said.
I had an email from Quinn from race day asking me for directions, and I didn't see it until yesterday. And so I had thought that maybe she didn't get it.
I think you probably just went to the website. It's a thorough website. runtigerclaw.com. Took some time to make, but it was worth it. We're going to move into the after show with our GR crew. We're going to answer additional questions. I want to talk about the building of the arch because it is a really cool collaboration between a Seattle artist and a California artist. And I'm excited to talk about it because there's a lot of symbolism behind that arch as well. Additional questions, please drop into the after show. The after show is for our Patreon supporters. So hold on a second. There we go. Our after show will be available for all of our Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/thegingerrunner for $1 or above. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, you can come join us for the after show. It also supports this channel from top to bottom. So it keeps the lights on, keeps the mics hot. It keeps us doing this. I apologize in advance for not having a video on the channel for the last week and a half. Shit got real. And we'll talk about it in the after show. Kim had to stop me from recording at like 2:30 in the morning because I was
Pacing
on,
back and forth with a shoe in your hand.
I was on like not cloud 9. I was on cloud -9. We'll talk all about that in the after show.
Oh, Mark Griffith is in the chat room right now. Thank you, Mark.
Elevation Culture also hooked it up with these medals. These things are sick. Okay. We'll see you guys in the after show. Am I forgetting anything? Probably 1,000 things. Thank you to everyone.
I don't think so. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our volunteers and everybody else that helped make this day possible, especially Darren and Austin. I almost just called you Aaron again.
It's Austin.
I'm so sorry.
And if you would like to run Tiger Claw next year, we would love for you to do that. We just need to make sure that we can do it permit wise. Like,
yeah,
we'll open up registration. We'll give you all that information in due time. Trust us.
We have people already asking us for dates.
Yeah, people are already like
Gus Gibbs. I'm looking at
Gus Gibbs. We want you back, man. Gus Gibbs is like
he's already asking me for confirmation on dates.
Yeah, people like David Laney saying that this is right up there with any European mountain race sort of thing makes me go, wow, like that's stout, which is awesome. So I hope it brings all the milkshakes to the yard.
I don't know, but Austin just trolled the chat room with Baby Shark, so here we are.
Beautiful. We'll see everyone in the after show. Thank you so much to all of our Tiger Claw supporters this weekend. We are beaming still. And please go get the hat, go get the hoodie. There's not many left, according to Brett. So go grab them now. And we're going to give away 3 of these hoodies in the after show. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. Thank you, everybody. We really, really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Goodbye.